Have you ever wondered what drives a seemingly ruthless person to become so relentless? Today, let's dive into the story of Emily, a young and gifted street performer, and Lady Margaret, a cold and haughty woman known for her cruelty. At first glance, they couldn't be more different, but as the brush reveals hidden layers, we'll uncover dark secrets that will change everything we thought we knew. Can Emily save Lady Margaret's life and unmask a dangerous foe at the same time? Stay with us and prepare for a journey of mystery, betrayal, and redemption. Subscribe to the channel and click on the notification. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers. This way YouTube will deliver this content to more people, who will benefit. I count on your help. On a sunny morning in the heart of a bustling and vibrant city, a young artist named Emily was deeply engrossed in her work. Her fingers skillfully glided across canvases, capturing the essence of people passing by her small, impromptu exhibition in the square. Emily had a rare gift. She could see beyond appearances and bring out the deepest emotions in her paintings. While she worked, a distinguished man with an upright posture and a keen gaze watched silently. He was the butler of Lady Margaret, a woman feared throughout the city for her reputation. The butler, impressed by Emily's ability to capture the soul of people, approached her. "I am Lady Margaret's butler. The lady is seeking a talented artist to paint her portrait. I believe you would be perfect for this task. Would you accept the invitation?" Emily, surprised and a bit wary, pondered. The opportunity was unique, but Lady Margaret's fame made her hesitate. Still, the chance to work on such an important piece and perhaps gain recognition led her to accept the challenge. The next day, Emily arrived at Lady Margaret's imposing mansion, its ancient ivy-covered walls whispering tales of a grand past. Upon entering, she was greeted once more by the butler, who led her through corridors adorned with magnificent artworks to a vast and elegantly decorated hall. There, in the center, stood Lady Margaret, tall, with a rigid posture and a gaze that seemed to pierce the soul. Her features were as beautiful as they were cold, and Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. Margaret looked her up and down, evaluating every detail of the young artist without a smile, merely nodding her head to signal Emily to begin. Emily set up her easel and prepared her paints while Lady Margaret settled into a luxurious chair with an expression that mixed boredom and superiority. Each brushstroke was a challenge, each glance from Lady Margaret a test. But despite the initial tension, Emily began to notice nuances in the aristocrat's face that the stories did not tell. Thus, the unexpected meeting between the young street artist and the relentless lady marked the beginning of a series of painting sessions that would reveal much more than a simple image on canvas. As the days passed, Emily continued to frequent Lady Margaret's mansion. Each time she crossed the imposing gate, she felt a mix of admiration and apprehension. The mansion was a work of art in itself, with meticulously cared-for gardens, elegant fountains, and statues that seemed to watch every movement. The grandeur of the place was overwhelming, and Emily couldn't help but think of the stories those centuries-old walls could tell. Upon entering the hall where she worked, Emily always found Lady Margaret already in position, like a queen on her throne. Margaret was a striking presence, and her coldness was palpable. The lady's icy blue eyes followed Emily's every move, evaluating and judging as if the young artist were a servant constantly having to prove her worth. Emily, on the other hand, strove to maintain her composure. The opulence around her left her in awe but also made her feel out of place. The walls covered with luxurious tapestries, the crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and the antique furniture all spoke of a world to which she did not belong. And at the center of it all was Lady Margaret, with her unshakable air of superiority. During the painting sessions, the silence was almost absolute, interrupted only by the soft sound of Emily's brushstrokes and occasionally by the distant murmur of servants going about their tasks. Lady Margaret rarely spoke, and when she did, her words were cold and precise, as if each sentence was calculated to maintain distance. Once, while adjusting the light to better capture Margaret's features, Emily ventured a conversation. "Lady Margaret, your art collections are truly impressive. You must have traveled extensively to acquire so many rare pieces." Margaret, without changing her expression, replied, "Yes, I have traveled. But true art is not in the pieces we possess, but in what we choose not to show. The enigmatic response left Emily intrigued. What was Lady Margaret hiding behind that glacial facade? With each session, the young artist felt there was more to this woman than her implacable appearance revealed. There was something in Margaret's eyes, a shadow of sadness or regret, that Emily was determined to understand. And so, as Emily's brushstrokes continued to shape the portrait, they also began to uncover hidden layers of Lady Margaret. The young artist grew increasingly certain there was a deep and painful story behind that coldness, and her curiosity drove her to want to discover more. The painting sessions continued, and Emily, now more attentive than ever, began to notice subtle details in Lady Margaret's behavior. At first, they were small things, a lost look for an instant, a deep sigh when she thought no one was paying attention, and even an almost imperceptible tremor in her elegantly clasped hands. One day, while adjusting the color to capture the lady's pale skin, Emily noticed an expression of pain that was quickly replaced by the usual mask of indifference. Intrigued, she decided to observe more closely. Margaret was a master at hiding her emotions, but Emily knew that the art of painting went beyond colors and shapes. It was about capturing the essence of the human being. During one of the sessions, as sunlight filtered through the tall windows, Emily noticed that Lady Margaret wore a necklace with a small locket. It was a discreet adornment, almost hidden under the collar of her dress. Curious, Emily asked, "That locket is very beautiful, Lady Margaret. Does it have any special significance?" Margaret, who had been absorbed in her thoughts, seemed caught off guard by the question. Her eyes narrowed for a brief moment before she replied, "It's just a memento from the past, nothing that should concern you, my young lady." But Emily knew there was more to that answer than the words suggested. Determined to understand what that small object represented, she began to pay even more attention to Margaret's reactions. On another occasion, Emily noticed that Lady Margaret seemed especially tense when mentioning trips abroad. There was a rigidity in her shoulders and a different gleam in her eyes, as if those places held memories she preferred to keep buried. With each session, Emily felt she was getting closer to a hidden truth. Despite her impenetrable facade, Margaret carried a burden that the young artist was determined to uncover. Emily's brushstrokes not only brought forth the image of Lady Margaret but also began to reveal the layers of pain and secrets that Margaret kept hidden. It was during one of these sessions that Emily made a disturbing discovery. While adjusting the easel's angle, she noticed a small burn mark at the base of Margaret's neck, almost imperceptible. That detail, which could easily go unnoticed by anyone, made Emily realize there was much more to Lady Margaret's story than she had imagined. The painting sessions were becoming a journey of discoveries for Emily. Each day revealed a new piece of the puzzle that was Lady Margaret's life. And the more Emily discovered, the more she felt compelled to unravel the enigma of this woman who, behind her implacable appearance, hid dark and painful secrets. As the weeks went by, Emily noticed a pattern in Lady Margaret's behavior. On days when Margaret seemed more vulnerable, she allowed fragments of her story to emerge, almost as if testing the young artist's trust. Emily, sensitive and observant, seized these moments to delve deeper into the secrets of the relentless woman. One afternoon, as the sunlight bathed the hall in a soft golden hue, Emily casually commented on the burn mark she had noticed. Margaret's reaction was immediate, her eyes hardened, and her expression closed off. After a tense silence, Margaret finally spoke, her voice laden with bitterness. "That mark is a reminder that trusting people is a weakness, something I learned the hard way." Curious and compassionate, Emily decided to approach the subject cautiously in the following sessions. She began to ask indirect questions, hoping that Margaret would open up more. Gradually, the dark story began to unfold. Margaret had once been a young woman full of hopes and dreams, involved in a relationship with a man of high standing who promised a bright future. But this man, in whom she had blindly trusted, ended up betraying her in the vilest way. Not only did he steal her fortune, but he also subjected her to public scorn, ruining her reputation and leaving her with physical and emotional scars. "He made me believe in a future together, only to destroy everything I had. The fire he set to my house wasn't just to burn my possessions but to erase my dignity," Margaret revealed, her voice choked with pain, a rare moment of vulnerability. Emily listened in silence, each word revealing more about the wounded soul of Lady Margaret. But the betrayals didn't stop there. Margaret's family, fearing scandal, abandoned her, leaving her at the mercy of rumors and the cruelty of society. Alone, she was forced to rebuild her life, hardening herself to survive in a world that seemed determined to destroy her. In the following weeks, other parts of Margaret's past were unveiled. The lady revealed that after the devastating betrayal, she had become embroiled in a dangerous game of manipulation and revenge. She used her intelligence and resources to rise again, manipulating those around her to regain what she had lost and more. Every smile, every gesture of kindness was calculated. "I couldn't afford to trust anyone, Emily. Living like this is exhausting, but it's the price I paid to survive," Margaret confessed, her gaze distant. Emily, touched by the depth of Margaret's pain, began to see Lady Margaret in a new light. The woman who seemed cold and relentless was, in fact, a survivor of countless cruelties. The young artist felt a mix of admiration and sadness, understanding that behind the mask of arrogance was a deeply wounded human being. Subscribe to the channel and click on the notification. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers, this way YouTube will deliver this content to more people, who will benefit. I count on your help. The painting sessions became not just an artistic task but also an emotional journey for Emily. Each day brought new revelations, and the young artist felt she was getting closer and closer to Margaret's true essence. The image on the canvas captured not only the lady's appearance but also the layers of pain, betrayal, and resilience that had shaped her life. As the days went by, Emily noticed a subtle but unsettling change in Lady Margaret's health. She seemed paler, more fragile, and there were moments when her hands visibly trembled. Concerned, Emily tried to bring it up, but Margaret, with her characteristic pride, dismissed any insinuation of weakness. "I'm just tired, Emily. Don't worry about it," Lady Margaret would say, trying to maintain her composure. But Emily wasn't convinced. Her unease only grew when one day, upon arriving for another painting session, she found the mansion's housekeeper quietly arguing with the butler. They seemed nervous, and their whispered words carried a tone of urgency that the young artist couldn't ignore. Determined to find out what was happening, Emily began to pay even more attention to her surroundings. She noticed that during some meals, Margaret avoided certain dishes, pushing them aside with a slight frown, a strange behavior for someone who had always been so meticulous and controlled. It was during one of these meals, while adjusting the colors on her palette, that Emily saw something alarming. A young man, appearing to be a distant relative of Lady Margaret, was at the table beside her. He seemed too attentive to what Margaret was eating and drinking. When Margaret looked away, Emily saw the man discreetly add a few drops of a colorless liquid to her wine glass. Emily's heart raced. She knew she had to act quickly but didn't want to alert the suspect. With some pretext, she interrupted the meal, deliberately spilling a jug of water over the table. The momentary chaos gave her the opportunity to remove Margaret's glass without raising suspicion. That night, with the glass safely stored, Emily sought the help of a trusted family doctor to analyze its contents. The analysis confirmed her worst fears. The liquid was a poisonous substance, a toxin that, when administered in small doses, caused a slow and progressive deterioration of health. The revelation was a devastating shock. Someone close to Lady Margaret was trying to kill her, and Emily knew she had to act quickly to save Margaret's life. Determined to protect the woman who, despite her coldness, had become important to her, Emily confronted Lady Margaret with the truth. "Margaret, you're being poisoned. I saw your relative add poison to your wine. We need to take immediate action." At first, Margaret reacted with disbelief, but upon seeing the seriousness in Emily's eyes and the irrefutable evidence from the doctor, the truth began to penetrate her impenetrable facade. The pain of betrayal was almost palpable on Margaret's face, a new scar to add to her long list of emotional wounds. "I can't believe he would do this," Margaret murmured, her voice breaking for the first time since Emily had known her. Now that they knew who the enemy was, Emily and Margaret needed to carefully plan their next move to unmask the culprit and ensure Margaret suffered no further harm. Emily's artistic talent, which initially seemed to be just a gift for beauty, would now be crucial in revealing the truth and saving a life. The young artist, strengthened by Margaret's trust, prepared to face the approaching danger, determined not to let cruelty and greed triumph over justice and truth. After revealing the truth about the poisoning, Emily and Margaret began to plan the best way to unmask the culprit. However, the ambitious relative was no fool and, realizing his plan was at risk, decided to act quickly to save himself. One morning, Emily arrived at Lady Margaret's mansion and found the atmosphere tense. The servants whispered among themselves, casting suspicious glances in her direction. When she was led to the main hall, she found Margaret pale and weakened, surrounded by doctors and police officers. The same relative Emily had seen poisoning the wine was there, and he looked at Emily with a triumphant smile. Before she could comprehend what was happening, one of the police officers approached her. "Miss Emily, we need you to come with us for questioning. You are being accused of attempting to poison Lady Margaret." The ground seemed to disappear beneath her feet. Emily, stunned, tried to argue, but the evidence planted against her was overwhelming. The poisoned glass she had removed from the table was now found among her belongings, along with bottles of poison in her painting bag. "This is absurd. I would never do this. They're trying to frame me," Emily exclaimed, but her words fell on deaf ears. Margaret, even in her weakened state, tried to intervene. "Emily is innocent. She warned me about the poisoning. She saved my life," Margaret insisted. But the ambitious relative, with an expression of false concern, said, "Unfortunately, the evidence points to her, aunt. We must let justice take its course." Emily was taken away by the police, feeling betrayed and desperate. She knew her time was running out, and if she didn't find a way to prove her innocence, not only her life would be at risk but also Margaret's. While detained, Emily reflected on recent events and realized the relative had carefully planned everything to incriminate her. He knew she was too close to uncovering the truth and decided to eliminate her before she could expose him. Determined to clear her name, Emily began to devise a plan. She requested to speak with Margaret, hoping the lady could help her find a way out. When the visit was allowed, Margaret brought with her a glimmer of hope and renewed determination. "We need to find a way to prove your innocence, Emily. I know you're not guilty, but we need concrete evidence," Margaret said, holding Emily's hands with a strength she hadn't imagined Margaret still possessed. Together, they began to recall every detail of the painting sessions and the days leading up to the accusation. They remembered small gestures and conversations that seemed insignificant at the time but now took on new meaning. It was then that Emily remembered the locket Margaret wore. Perhaps there was something in it that could incriminate the real culprit. Intrigued, Margaret agreed to investigate. The next day, Margaret returned to the mansion with fierce determination, searching the relative's belongings under some pretext. What she found was enough to turn the tables: a hidden diary detailing the relative's entire plan to poison her and frame Emily. With this evidence in hand, Margaret immediately went to the police, who reopened the investigation. Emily was finally released, but the experience left her marked. However, upon leaving the prison, she found Margaret waiting for her. The two women, united by adversity, knew there was still a road ahead to ensure justice was served. But now, they were ready to face any challenge together. The ambitious relative was arrested, and the truth came to light. Margaret, now more human in Emily's eyes, deeply thanked the young artist for her loyalty. Emily, in turn, felt she had gained not only a mentor but also a friend. The journey that began with a brush and a canvas had transformed into a fight for truth and justice, uniting two wounded souls in an unbreakable bond. With Emily now free but still under society's watchful eye, she and Margaret knew they needed definitive proof to incriminate the true culprit and completely clear Emily's name. Margaret, ever confident and determined, worked alongside the young artist to use all the resources they had at their disposal. Emily had a brilliant idea: to use her artistic talent to unmask the ambitious relative. During the long painting sessions, she had observed every detail of the man's behavior, his habits, his movements, and even the way he gestured. Determined to turn these observations into evidence, Emily began working on a new project. She decided to paint a series of portraits that, together, would tell the story of the poisoning. Each painting would be a fragment of the puzzle, capturing key moments and expressions that only someone with an attentive and talented eye could perceive. The expressions of disdain and anxiety on the relative's face, the hands furtively manipulating small vials, and the nervous glances during dinners, Emily captured all of this with a precision that defied belief. While Emily worked in her studio, Margaret delved into the family's documents, searching for any clue that could corroborate the relative's vile plan. It was a daunting task but a rewarding one. Among old papers and correspondences, Margaret found financial evidence of suspicious transfers and records of purchasing poisonous substances. With the paintings ready, Emily and Margaret organized a private exhibition at the mansion, inviting important members of society and local authorities. The exhibition was presented as a celebration of Emily's talent, but it had a much deeper purpose. Each painting was strategically positioned to lead the spectators to a final revelation. At the center of the exhibition, Emily and Margaret placed a painting that was the centerpiece of the entire narrative. In it, the ambitious relative was depicted with an expression of guilt and fear, holding a vial identical to the one found among Emily's belongings, but now identified as belonging to him. When the relative entered the room and saw the paintings, his face paled. The evidence was undeniable. With the guests murmuring in shock and indignation, he knew he was cornered. He attempted to leave the mansion discreetly, but Margaret, with the authority of a lady, ordered the guards to detain him. The police, who were also present, arrested the man. The evidence, between the financial records and Emily's precise portraits, left him with no way to deny his guilt. Under pressure, he finally confessed, revealing all the details of his nefarious plan. The confession brought profound relief to Emily and Margaret. Justice was finally being served, and Emily's name was completely cleared. Margaret, with a mix of pride and gratitude, embraced the young artist, acknowledging not only her talent but also her courage and loyalty. The exhibition, which began as a trap, became a triumph for Emily. Her artistic talent not only saved her life but also brought the truth to light, ensuring the real culprit was punished. The bond between Emily and Margaret grew even stronger, and the story of their struggles and victories became a legend told with admiration and respect by all who heard it. Emily's legacy as a talented artist and a defender of justice was established, and Margaret, transformed by Emily's friendship and loyalty, began to open up more to the world, leaving behind the mask of coldness that once defined her. Together, the two women moved forward, knowing they had faced the worst and emerged victorious. With the ambitious relative imprisoned and the poisoning finally exposed, Emily and Margaret began to rebuild their lives. The atmosphere in the mansion, once laden with distrust and fear, was now filled with relief and renewed hope. Margaret, relieved by the revelation of the truth, was deeply grateful to Emily for saving her life and unmasking the real culprit. Emily, now seen with new eyes by society, was hailed for her courage and determination. However, the true victory for her was not just the restoration of her name but the profound understanding she gained about Margaret and, consequently, about herself. In the days following the culprit's capture, Emily spent more time with Margaret. The lady, who had previously maintained a cold distance, began to open up to the young artist, sharing stories of her life that had not been revealed before, moments from her youth, the challenges she faced in rebuilding her life, and the deep pains she had suffered. As they worked together to restore order in the mansion and ensure the continuity of Margaret's affairs, Emily observed how Margaret handled daily tasks with a quiet strength. In every gesture and decision, Emily saw the complexity of the woman behind the implacable facade. Margaret was not just a survivor, she was a strategist, a woman who had learned to live with her scars and shape her destiny with intelligence and resilience. Emily also began to see how Margaret had used her power and influence to protect the few who still mattered to her, hiding the suffering she faced with silent dignity. Every decision Margaret made, every policy she implemented, reflected a deep desire to ensure that those around her had a better chance than she did. The transformation in Emily was profound. The young artist not only gained Margaret's trust but also learned to admire the strength and complexity of the woman she had initially misjudged. From this experience, Emily found a new purpose in her art and in her life. Painting, which was once merely an expression of her creativity, became a means to explore and express the depth of the human condition and the struggle for justice. Margaret, in turn, began to see Emily as more than just an artist. She became a loyal friend and a valuable ally. The lady began to reveal a new facet of her personality, a woman who, despite her hardness, was willing to learn and grow. The friendship between the two women flourished, and Margaret began to open her heart more, showing a generosity and understanding that had previously been hidden under a layer of ice. The transformation was not limited to the relationship between Emily and Margaret. Emily herself found new meaning in her life, now that she had a clearer purpose. With Margaret's influence and the new understanding she had acquired, she became a stronger voice for those who needed justice and truth. Her art now carried a message of resilience, compassion, and empathy, reflecting the lessons she had learned alongside the lady. The two women, each marked by their own battles and triumphs, found a way to unite their strengths. Lady Margaret's mansion transformed not just into a symbol of wealth but also of redemption and renewal. Emily and Margaret, with their intertwined pasts and transformed lives, embarked on a new journey, a journey of friendship, understanding, and a shared commitment to truth and justice. Together, they not only rebuilt their lives but also helped build a brighter future, where their experiences and stories intertwined in a testament to strength and resilience. Emily and Margaret's journey was not just about saving a life but also about finding and redefining the value of their own lives and how understanding and friendship can transform even the deepest wounds. The story of Emily and Margaret is a powerful reminder that behind every facade and appearance lie complex and deep stories that shape who we are. Sometimes what seems relentless or insensitive is actually a defense against a past full of pain and betrayal. By looking beyond first impressions and approaching with empathy, we can discover the true essence of people and help heal deep wounds. Emily showed us that art can be more than personal expression, it can be a tool for revelation and justice. And Margaret, with her strength and resilience, reminds us that even after the greatest adversities, it is possible to find redemption and build a new life. If you enjoyed following this emotional and reflective journey, don't miss exploring more fascinating and inspiring stories here on our channel. Subscribe, activate notifications, and dive into a universe of narratives that bring out the best of humanity and history. Join us on this journey and discover what else we have to offer. Until the next video.